Hi, I'm Michele Saumberfield, and my soul was Marilyn Monroe's during its last past life. But did you know that 4 lifetimes before Marilyn's was a lady named Charlotte Massey Hawthorne? And so Charlotte is one of my past lives, and she's one of Marilyn's. And I think it's kind of interesting, even though they grew up in different parts of this country, even though they went on to do different things, Charlotte was actually a pretty blonde lady. She had very naturally white blonde hair, and she became very prominent in the town she lived in. Now, this wasn't necessarily a good thing. It wasn't like looking for fame in Hollywood and getting your, handprints on the Walk of Fame and a star and everything. She was known for being promiscuous. Now, this was of no fault of her own. She was attacked when she was a very young, well-developed woman. She looked maybe 17 or so, even when she was 13. And somebody noticed that and took advantage of her. So she got this bad reputation in the town she lived in. They were very religious, very uptight, very controlling, had lots of rules, had lots of laws. And she died at a young age. She died at age 19. Of course, Marilyn lived almost twice as long as that, but they have that similarity in that they were pretty, very prominent, well-known blondes who had kind of scandalous reputations. Marilyn's was kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I think it's important people look at Marilyn and realize that how she was perceived during her time might be different than how she was perceived after her death, and especially decades after her death. At the time Marilyn was a sex symbol, she was, put up on a pedestal. A lot of people thought she was beautiful. Even in Hollywood, where maybe she was a pain in the ass to work with sometimes, people were willing to hang in there and work with her and wait around and be extra patient sometimes because they knew that in the long run, Marilyn was so photogenic that she would deliver, a really beautiful performance, and people wanted to be in a Marilyn Monroe movie. But unfortunately, Charlotte didn't have the successes that Marilyn did. And she suffered a lot of heartbreak in her life. So I've been telling, my friends, Tina and Ron, I'm writing poetry. I feel that I'm kind of channeling Charlotte through me. I'm not trying to do that. I just very much feel she's present with me. And I literally feel like any poetry I write about her life right now is her presence coming through me. It's not just coming from my mind alone. And I keep saying, I want to write something uplifting, but all these poems are kind of on the dark side. So I was telling one of my friends tonight, well, I wrote a fifth poem. I feel like I really channeled, channeled the spirit of Charlotte through me. And I'm drinking a Bloody Mary at the same time. And he said, well, Hemingway said something about writing his best stuff while drunk. I'm like, well, I'm trying not to get drunk necessarily, but I'm trying to be a bit relaxed. And, but I came up with a poem. I don't know how long later it was, an hour and a half later, like that. But I said, it's so negative. I don't even have any, sexual innuendo in it. So I don't know, maybe it's a failure, but I think what's important is if a poem is cathartic or it's interesting or relatable or, I don't know, makes you think. I think that's really how I feel when I'm channeling this poetry of Charlotte's through me. I feel like, maybe they'll make people think. Granted, Charlotte lived back probably from about 1822 to 1842. So there were a lot of different ways of seeing the gender equality issue at that time, and things were anything but equal. And so I get it that things were very different then than they are now. But still, it kind of makes you think, if Charlotte died about 180 years ago, that wasn't that long ago. And, it's frightening to think that the world ever, civilized society was ever adopting really unequal and cruel ways of handling sensitive situations in a person's life. That's the way I look at it. Oh my gosh. Now, little kitty cat, and she wants to jump there. Jump, jump! Ha-ha! There she is, up on the dresser. Okay, kitty cat, you're just the funniest little thing. What are you doing, kitty cat? What are you doing? She loves that dresser. That's my boyfriend's dresser, and she loves my boyfriend. Okay, anyway, I remember that Charlotte used to have a gray cat, and it was a pretty fluffy type cat. Not prissy fluffy, but just more fluffy than that cat. We call her Poods. That's not her real name, but we call her that because she's just such a little poodinky. She just kind of prances around all the time and rubs up against my boyfriend. But, of course, I do that too. But, so anyway, I'm going to read this poem. It's a bit serious. Maybe it's a bit preachy. I don't know, but I'm going to read it anyway. And if you don't like it, turn it off. But here you go. Gonna have some Bloody Mary. This is my second one tonight. But, I mean, it takes me hours to drink it, and I'm not driving. So, that's okay. That's so good. Okay. Okay, let's get on with the show here. This poem. Okay, I called this poem Charlotte, July 21st, 1842, because I believe that was the day that Charlotte was burnt at the stake for adultery. I'm not 100% sure, but that would be my best guess. If I had to make a guess, not actually knowing, that is what I would say. July 21st, 1842. By Charlotte Massey Hawthorne. All right. There was a very blonde lady, pretty as can be. She lost her arms and legs and face in ignited Calvary. No one stepped in to save her. No one ever asked why. She did what she did, which led her there to die. The town just accepted this was an event, some way to get their jollies on a Thursday morning spent. There was a frightened blonde lady paraded to the post. People lined up to see her, giving up the ghost. And what could she be thinking? They wondered as they stared. I bet the flames will crackle as they go through her blonde hair. The people wanted wisdom when they asked for her last words, but none of them spoke up for her and demanded to be heard. There was a stoic blonde lady tied against the post. People gathered around her to watch the horror up close. I suppose they didn't realize it wasn't fun and games, but when she lost her brown eyes, their outlook wasn't the same. Ladies and gentlemen, step up for the show. Would you like to be next? What a way to go! For if you do not fight it, you may be the next. If you do support it, you cannot be perplexed. In a little town where people are playing God, nothing is too shocking, the scope of cruelty broad. There was a pretty blonde lady burning on the post. As gawkers planned their next lunch, she turned into toast. So say a prayer for clemency. They need it more than she. Though they'll walk away alive, I'd rather still be me. For I was that blonde lady, once upon a time. Just ask my darling husband who killed me in my prime. And I have moved on from that town and shan't return. No pun intended, but all bridges have been burned. I will not haunt the grounds there. I will not visit the church. Where were those holy people when my existence was besmirched? Pride and self-righteousness, arrogance replete. The people wanted my last words. Leaving you is sweet. So there you go. Oh my God. Well, I don't know. I think that forgiveness is important, but I think sometimes somebody who's the person who's in a really difficult position feels like to forgive means to give permission to allow to be hurt, or to forgive means giving someone the stamp of approval to hurt you. And that's not what it means. And certainly it's easier for me 5 lifetimes later to attempt to forgive somebody who put me in a bad position so many years ago, so many lifetimes ago. But I find that at the same time, a lot of times I'll feel like I'm almost there, almost can forgive my husband from that lifetime and the townspeople. It's really my husband, though, from that lifetime that I have the problems with. But sometimes I feel like I'm almost there. I really want to forgive him because I see my faults during that lifetime. And, it's like, don't cast rocks, you're not perfect either, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones type of things. But being burned at the stake is pretty severe. That's like beyond, right? So working on forgiveness, but in the meantime, some of my poems may be a little, I don't know, scathing. But anyway, I am going to enjoy the rest of my Friday. It might even be Saturday by now because it might be midnight by now or close to it. And my boyfriend went to hear a concert. He is a computer guy who does music on the side, who sometimes goes to karaoke, sometimes goes to open mic nights, and will play solo songs. He's good. He can actually play music all by himself on the guitar and the keyboard and do all kinds of fancy things. And then he's also been in multiple rock bands in the Indianapolis area. So my boyfriend is, oh, little kitty, she just bounced on the bed. So my boyfriend is out doing that, and I am at home with the cats and drinking Bloody Marys and writing poetry and meditating and IMing my friends. And, I guess I'm really fortunate because I've got some friends, and unfortunately, Charlotte had limited friends because her reputation was hurt when she was a teenager. And, sometimes once people start rumors and point fingers and gossip about you, things never are the same. You might meet some accepting people or some new people who move to your town and don't hear the gossip. But, we all have the ability to really ruin things for each other or uplift each other. Oh, kitty cat, don't do that. Anyway, she's chewing on things. But, yeah, unfortunately, Charlotte lived in a gossipy little town with a few fancy buildings and some rich people and some poor people and a church and a lot of judgment. And she died at age 19 for something that probably none of the men in the town would have ever been punished for. You know, she had a fling when she was married, but thank God things have changed and things are a little more equal, you know, now in 2021. So anyway, here you go, baby kitty. Ah, here you go. See, this is my little baby kitty. Actually, she's not mine. She's my boyfriend's daughter's. And she's so funny because she will fuss and whine so loud sometimes. And then if you actually pick her up, she's very skittish, as you can see. And she'll act like you're torturing her. But she likes to be in this room, and I had to let her in the room because as soon as I closed the door to make the video, before I turned the machine on, she was crying very, very loudly. And yes, she likes her own way. Our cats like to see us jump. They just want us to serve them. We're lucky we even are allowed to live in their house. Anyway, have a good evening. If I can turn this off, I will. All right.